Eric Mwathe, October 22nd, 2014 with another mentorship video. So let's take a look at how to draw resistance and support lines. Now, why is this method effective? The method is effective because you are using the stock itself to help you decide what to do with the stock itself. So in other words, you're not just coming in with generic setups. The stock is telling you this is how I respond to certain levels, and the best we can do is pay attention and figure out how to use that information. So this works because, again, you're using the stock to identify what the stock does whenever it hits key levels. So right now we've placed a trade, or you've placed a trade for TZA, and so let's take a look at the TNA and then go back to the TZA, show you what I was looking at in terms of understanding where some of this thought process is coming from. So we are using the stock TNA in this example to tell us that what to do. But first, let's go back to the sell points. This was the high. Now, why is that important to identify the high? We know this is the high. We are not guessing. It is not subject to opinion. It is a fact that that was the high. And since then, the stock has gone lower. It hasn't breached these highs. So use that information. And where did this pullback of these highs begin? And you'll see that on this day here, this is a daily chart, and you can use this on any time frame. But on this example, we are using a daily chart. So on this day here, there was an attempt to move to new highs that failed. Okay, draw a straight line here, come down, and you'll see that the breakpoint seems to have taken place here. The RSI stalled here, and I know you might say, so what does that mean? So I just take a simple line there. I can see that ever since we broke down here, the stock has not been up to those levels again. So I'm using the stock to, I know that's a little bit confusing the way I'm explaining it, but if you draw a line there, it gives you this sell point here. So there was a trend. There are two lines actually. I know it's confusing. So this is the high. How did we come off the high? We broke this trend line there. That makes sense? So you draw a straight line and come down here. That's where the RSI broke down. Since then, the stock has not gone back to those levels. Draw a straight line. Because this, what is going on here is, the way I explain it is, at this level here, the stock became sick. It became sick and came off these healthy levels. So draw a straight line. This is where it became sick. Every time the stock comes here, back to this level with uniform activity. The key is uniform activity, because there's something that happens to a stock. I don't know how this plays out to a stock when it comes back to a level where it was sick here. Once it was sick here, it comes back here and does not move above the same line. That's a sell point, and you can see that also gave you the high. Now you might say, wait a minute, there was this level here, another level here. How come they did not go down? If you notice, there were slight moves lower. There was a slight move lower here and a slight move lower there. Did it become a major sell signal? Not yet. But what you'll notice is that over time we made a high, and a high. So we made higher highs, but the RSI did not move lower. So what I'm saying is, by the time it comes to this level here and fails for the third time and starts dropping, you'll also notice that there was another break over trend line. This simple line connecting the recent lows on the support line, once that broke and you had higher highs with RSI not moving higher, that was too much and the stock eventually broke down. Hope that makes sense. So there's two levels. I'll go back to what I was trying to say. There was that break, which is off the highs, draw a straight line, and you might need to practice this, and it's very easy to practice. Just go and look at as many charts as possible to practice what I'm saying here, because you'll see this everywhere. And so we see that it gave you the high here, which also coincided with that trend break. So this high was evident because of resistance on the level where the stock had become sick previously, which gave you the high. So the stock had come back to the doctor visit and was not given a clean bill of health. The doctor said, oh my gosh, your situation is getting worse. And we also broke the trend line there. So that was a high. Now there's another level. And that level is the one I was talking about previously. And so you can play around with this. There's no hard science here. You're just using the stock to tell you what to do. Now I'm going to draw this line. There was a trend break here, similar to this trend break there. And this gave you this high. That was the high. Once we broke below this line here, that was the high. And so we draw. So this becomes a secondary line. By secondary, I mean it is the second most important line on this chart for this stock. When it comes to this level and breaks down, you'll see that every time we come to this level and break down, the stock continues moving lower somewhere there. We come to this level and cannot hold above that. Eventually we give back, and you can see this is uniform activity. Above the line, back below the line, above the line, back below the line. So that's uniform activity. Let me draw that again. Hope you can see that. So we are coming here, trying to find a secondary sell signal for the instrument. And you can see that uniform activity with this double top, above the line, back below it. So that's, to me, is uniform activity. And once we broke down here, that was a recent high and the reason for this pullback. So you can see as of right now, if this turns around on a day-to-day like that, then this is also another short-term pullback situation, which means TZA is a buy. I hope that makes sense. And let me show you something else here that you can also see, that if I take the high here, draw a straight line without too much adjustment, in fact, without any adjustment, you can see that it connects to the high there, that double top, and also comes in contact with exactly where it's trading at the current levels. So my thinking is around here, we can take a calculated bet that buying TZA makes sense for a trade. So let's go back to TZA and take a look at TZA on a daily chart. Remember, this might need some practice on your part to see whether you can understand what this is doing. All right, so let's go to TZA and just want to show you that you might draw a simple line connecting the lows like that. Just the opposite of TNA. You see it connects to that low, this double bottom, and then this is where it's trading. So my thinking here is if it can turn positive around here, then this is going to confirm support, and you might get a good trade for a couple of days holding maybe to the upside. Okay, that makes sense. So also if you take a look at this chart, in fact, let me go back to my usual TZA daily chart to show you the sell points on TZA, since it's the one that we most recent purchased. And if you go back many years on this stock, in fact, let me go back a couple years beyond the current 1 year. Let's go back 3 years. This is daily chart, so we are looking at a daily chart. And I know it's a little bit busy, but just bear with me. You can see that if I draw a line right there, which is the two lines, if I draw a line that right there, you can see that ever since we broke this trend here, which was the highs here in the 70s, close to 80s, every time the stock has come back to this level, it has found resistance. It came close here, which gave you a high. So we are using the stock to tell us by itself where it finds resistance, and that was a high there. So we are using the stock here to tell us that if it comes here and has uniform activity to the line and resistance is confirmed, you have to sell the stock. Every time it did that, there was a major turn point in the stock. Every single time without any failure. Okay, and even recently, let's go back because now that is a little bit too congested. Go back to the daily, And if you've been following, and I'm sure you have, you can see that even recently we had a short-term high on this stock, which meant that TNA was a buy. And you can see that we've gone on multiple occasions above the line, back below it, uniform activity, above the line, back below it, uniform activity, above the line, back below it with uniform activity, back below those two lines. That is why this was a sell signal, if you remember when I was talking about that. Why? Because we were making higher highs while the RSI was not moving too much above to new levels. So why do I think that right now this could be a possibility of a buy signal? Is because I can see that this is a short-term low, and the stock had a nice run from 14 all the way to about 19. So all I need to do is use the stock to tell me how to trade the stock, and I can see that this move began. When did this move begin moving? Truly, it began picking up momentum. It settled here for a while and then started moving somewhere around here is when it started picking up momentum. So I can draw a line connecting maybe even somewhere around there, which gives me this entry point here, but the stock was not yet moving with pace. The movement with pace, I can argue, began when it moved there. You can see the movement with pace began once it moved above that declining resistance. So I want to use that information. And also there was another, remember, you are looking at the stock and the price and the RSI and using that information to your advantage. There was also another short-term move here. Once it moved above that declining line, it seemingly moved almost straight after that. And so I can also draw it, you can draw it above that line, which would correspond with these lows here. Draw a straight line. And you can see what I'm trying to say here is, if this can become support, then this instrument moves higher because it is testing. So here we can say on the buy signal, the stock went and saw the doctor. Doctor said, oh man, you're in good health. You look healthy. You should go back to your daily activities, go back to your sports. Your injury has healed itself. And so this is now the revisiting the doctor situation for the checkup. And you can see the doctor says, yeah, I can see everything's fine. You've had a nice practice session. You can go back now that you've shown that you've come back for your checkup. Everything has checked out again. And I think you can go back to your daily activity. You should be cleared by now. So if it finds support here and the doctor says, yes, you look good, then it moves higher. And so you'd expect this to move higher. So that's the reasoning. And I'm saying that it might take some practice and just to get the concept. I want to go to the hourly and show you where my thought process was. So this is the hourly. We can see that these are the lows on an hourly chart. Remember, it's always good to confirm things on most time frames. Here we've looked at the daily. Just want to go back and take a look at the hourly for timing purposes. Now you can see we had a nice move from 14 all the way to 19. Okay, that's good. Where did this move begin? We just draw a simple line connecting the highs. We can see that for sure once we moved above that level, which is corresponding with the stock trading somewhere here, somewhere around there, the stock has not moved below that level since. So we take this here where the doctor said, okay, I think you can go back to practicing. And if we, as you can see here, that if the stock can confirm rebound with uniform activity back above the line here, if it happens, then that's going to be suggesting that the stock is due for a bounce. Now this doesn't look great because now that I look at it, it doesn't. Let me draw this. Remember, this is always open to suggestion, so we can actually bring this slightly lower. I'm going to do something here. Find the exact entry level, which is here. So there we are. So this is an anticipation of moving back above that line with uniform activity. And why would I anticipate that? Is because when we looked at the daily, we are expecting that this move that began somewhere here is what is being tested. So this is what the daily is trying to tell us. I can also see that the stock is trading back to the 200-day moving average, the 50-day moving average, and also back to the 200-day moving average. So now, after I've seen that RSI support and resistance showing possibility of a turnaround, I look at where the stock is trading, and I can see it's trading very close to the moving averages, which makes me wonder whether this is now going to become support and the stock start trickling to the upside. Remember, if you can get 10%, 8%, 15% in a couple of days, that's not bad. So I hope this video does explain where I'm getting at. The bottom line is you're using the stock to talk to you, and you can draw lines that speak to you. And once you see that they make sense to you, then that is what you are using. I know it's not usually what people use when they're trading technicals, but I have found that this is a very, what's the word I'm looking for? Interesting way to consider the market. And once you practice it, where to draw your lines, and you play around with them, you find that once you get the confidence, the stock starts talking to you. And you can also do this on a daily chart, on an hourly chart. So the more you look at hourly charts during the day and practice during the day, the more they'll make sense, because you can use them on the dailies, on the weeklies, and on the monthlies. One more thing I just noticed here while I was talking and rambling along is, if I draw a line connecting the highs like that, so the line connecting these highs, you can see that you can also argue once we broke out above this level, we broke out here, went up, maybe we are just coming here and testing this line, and then we are going to bounce. So that's another view. So there is no hard analysis here. You're not using any fixed understanding of a stock. You're using the stock itself to tell you what to do. And if you are wrong, you place a stop and let things settle out the way they will. So that's my best explanation. Of course, give me your feedback after you watch the video. Let me know which aspects of this method you want me to explain to you, and I'll make another video as a follow-up so we can continue trying to crystallize how you can use the RSI support and resistance to make trades. Eric Moore, good luck, peace, and blessings. Woo!